As promised, a patch for Terraria Mobile 1.4 has arrived. RoboArms of DR Studios brought us the news on that. We've also heard a few comments from Relogic's Loki regarding console development for Terraria 1.4, so I'll mention those comments also. But beginning with the mobile patch, they've quickly fixed a few things with that. There'll be more patches, I assure you, because the list of things they acknowledge still need fixing is quite long. Let's start with what RoboArms had to say. Welcome everyone to the first patch for Terraria Journey's End on mobile devices. The dev team have fixed a number of important bugs raised in the community. We also took a much needed break in order to rest and reinvigorate ourselves for the path ahead. We have a lot to get done and we cannot wait to get started. Without further ado, here are the changes made in patch 14051. That's a mouthful. Build 514, I might add. Patch 14051, build 514. There's a lot of changes and I'm not going to read them aloud because that's probably not good YouTubing. But I'll scroll them on the screen as you can see. If you want to read the entire list at your leisure, I'll include a link to the news post so you can review all of those changes at whatever pace you deem appropriate. And given how briefly this thing has been out and the fact that mobile Terraria has to run on a huge number of different devices, this is a solid effort on the part of DR Studios. It hasn't taken them long, all things considered. I have to say, the fix removing a game crash from liquid bombs and rockets sounds like it'll be a welcome one. I know that a few people on Discord were talking about that particular one being an issue, and so it's certainly good to see that they've fixed that, but as the list indicates, there were a few other things that the dev team and the community pointed out weren't quite working correctly in the initial patch for 1.4, so they've addressed those. And hopefully they didn't create more problems than they solved with these fixes. Knock on wood, they've just fixed the situation there. So a fairly quick fix for a good number of issues with mobile 1.4, but they themselves admit that they're going to be working on the following list of issues. So if any of these issues have been plaguing you, they should be corrected at some point in the future. Again, I'm not going to recite this entire list out loud. These are all also mentioned in the post I'm linking to in the video description below, so if you want to read them more slowly, just check out that link. As you can see, they've posted workarounds on some of these things for the time being until they can be fixed. In a game with thousands, and I'm not exaggerating, thousands of different items and many types of interactions, these issues were really just inevitable. But don't worry folks, you'll get that food on your plates before too much more time has passed by. The one that sounds like it'll be a little bit longer cooking in the oven, so to speak, is the water rippling effect. Those are still missing. It's not really a bug though, it's more of a deliberate design decision on their part to hold off on really trying to get those visual effects running on all these different mobile devices as they focus more on the core gameplay issues. They have pointed out quite correctly that the colored lighting effects that they've already patched into mobile 1.4 did improve visuals in the water to some extent. So certainly make sure that you've enabled the colored lighting feature if you haven't already while we wait on the ripple effects. It sounds like, again, knock on wood, those effects will be arriving at some point in the future. They just have to find a way to shoehorn those into the game while they work on, of course, all the other things that are supposed to be taken care of. I hadn't heard about some players losing chunks of their worlds while saving. That's certainly not a good thing. It's a pretty crippling bug if it's affecting you. Hopefully that's not affecting too many of you guys. Anyway, that's the list of all the different things that they've been addressing. So it's pretty extensive. And of course, all the different things they have yet to fix as well. They do encourage you to post any issues you might be encountering in the mobile support forums on the official forums website. I'll toss a link to that in the video description below if you want a direct link to that particular forum to report bugs. But, at the beginning of the video, I also mentioned that there was some chat from Loki on console 1.4 development, and I'm not going to leave you hanging. Loki wrote the following on the official forums. Zero Jinqui initially wrote, "I don't really get why though. They should just wait until everything is implemented before releasing it. I mean, I'm not going to want to play it since we'll still have another update to wait for anyway." 141 fixes some serious issues like the jungle being dead upon arrival or dead on arrival upon world gen and increases chances of pyramids. So there's no reason to play 1.4 until 1.41. Anyway, in response to that, Loki wrote, "There are good reasons, not the least of which is this gets consoles into the 1.4 era sooner than otherwise. Trust in the plan, we aren't just randomly doing things." Ignis55 writes, "Is DR Studios doing more optimizations for Switch version?" Loki's response to that was, "Can't speak much yet to performance on any console, as these are just early builds without a ton of optimizations, etc. That would sure be the desire though, much as was seen with mobile 1.4. And it sounds like, yeah, they did do a lot of tweaking to the mobile performance, and I'm sure that's ongoing, so I'm sure it's not really going to be much different with the consoles. And if anything, it's going to be easier on the consoles, because you're talking about a much more uniform set of hardware than on mobile devices." Master Game Guy 1 writes, "If you read it, it says that Switch will actually be getting the update later than console." And in response to that, Loki writes, "Well, that, and we just showed Journey's End running on Xbox One last month." So I don't know if that's a thinly veiled hint that we're talking maybe a month or so gap between the Xbox and PlayStation release dates and the Switch release date. For the sake of Switch Terrarians, and I have a Switch myself, although I don't play Terraria on it, I certainly hope that it's not much longer than that. If there is a gap, hopefully it's not too long. Here's an interesting name. A Flaming Pumpkiner writes, "I believe mobile gets 1.4.1 first," meaning first as in before console gets 1.4. Loki was there to respond to that with, "Console 1.4 is far more likely to be first." Well, that sounds equitable, right? You know, it doesn't seem right that console would be stuck in 1.3 while mobile gets 1.4.1. So hopefully no one has to wait too long, but, you know, if anything, I think, as he says, it's only just that console users get a taste of 1.4, and then we move on to make sure everyone gets 1.4.1. But that's really a question for, I suppose, Relogic and DR Studios. It's out of my pay grade. And responding to an earlier comment on the forums from a user named Erinit, Loki wrote, "There was a lot more that needs to get done than people are thinking about. Pre-alpha means that not all of the core features desired are in, much less optimized and fully tested. That said, with mobile 1.4 and its fixes wrapping up, the era of DR console focus will begin, and we will see how fast that progresses." Erinit, in response to that, replied, "Thank you, Loki, for clarifying. I had a little too high of hopes, but I can't wait to see what DR Studios can get done." You and me both, pal. And in response to that, Loki replied, "I think a lot of folks on the console side are grossly underestimating the amount of work needed to get done to get that where it needs to be. Having gone through the scoping process of where we are and what remains to get it where we want versus the expectations that about 1 week after the mobile 1.4 release that we would either have a launch or an exact date underscores that. The literal game content exists, unquote, is just one step in a multi-step process to provide what is planned, and we do not figure on cutting any corners to get there. That does and will take time. How much time is still in question, which is why you don't have a date." I don't mean that personally, of course, just in general. Well, that was a very chivalrous conclusion to your comment, Loki, and he's right. You know, there's a lot of stuff. You can't just click your fingers and have something ported over to console. I don't even want to think about just all the coding and the logistics of getting something like that done. It takes a lot of work, a lot of work hours to accomplish. A lot of talented people have to do a lot of work to get from A to B. So, you know, if there's any team to do it, it's the team at DR Studios working with Realogic. They've had a good track record so far. I know I've said that in most of my videos, and you might be getting tired of hearing it, but you know, it would only delay things if they went with another studio, and thankfully they seem to be keeping with DR Studios. Again, they've got a good track record, and so, you know, with any luck, we'll see this, you know, before the year is out, or maybe early into 2021. At least we have something to look forward to, right? At any rate, we're in November now, early November, and we're out of the crazy month of October where all the action was happening. So we'll have to see what November brings us. Anyway, thanks for watching if you've listened this far, and of course, as always, I'll keep my eyes to the forums and to the Discord and to anything else just to keep track of what's going on in the world of Terraria. I think a lot of the action, as I said, happened last month, but that doesn't mean things have stopped completely. There's still a lot of work to be done, and in console especially, there's a lot of progress yet to be made, so it'll be fun following along with that. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.